Recently, the Catholic Church made a new saint, Carlo Acutis, who, when diagnosed with leukemia at a young age, died 4 days later. But before he died, the 15-year-old with the nickname God's Influencer built a website cataloging miracles. However, people are giving a little pushback to Carlo's recent promotion. Some think the Catholic Church is using Carlo to attract younger audience, which does have some validity. The church has gone as far as to say that the proof of his sainthood is in his relatability, and that he could be someone in the crowd. Questioning Carlo's credentials isn't something that's crazy. Canonization has become more common in recent years, with the late Pope John Paul II, who was Pope from 1978 until his death in 2005, declaring 482 saints during his tenure, more than all of his predecessors. That record was overtaken just 2 months into Pope Francis's tenure, as he canonized more than 800 15th century martyrs known as the Martyrs of Otranto, who were beheaded for refusing to convert to Islam. So I ask, does sainthood mean the same thing? Does becoming a saint have the same impact as it once did if every pope is out here setting new records? Let's see exactly how Carlo met the requirements and see if we can answer those questions. Step 1 to becoming a saint is servant to God. This investigation usually doesn't start until at least 5 years after the potential saint has died, but the Pope does have the power to waive that rule. Carlo mixed his faith with technology, becoming known as God's influencer. He started publishing newsletters for his local churches, taking care of his parish website, and later one of a Vatican-based academy. He then became interested in the Eucharistic miracles. Now, a Eucharistic miracle is defined as any miracle involving the Eucharist, particularly the belief that Christ is truly present in the Eucharist. Additionally, it can be described as a private revelation approved by the church for devotion. In simpler terms, it's the moment when the faithful are giving a small piece of bread and a sip of wine, called the Holy Communion. Now, they believe that through the consumption of the bread and wine, Jesus Christ enters those who take part. Carlo started logging these miracles on a website, which eventually went viral and has since been translated into many of the world's most widely spoken language. Now on to step 2, which is venerable or heroic in virtue. This means that they were an exceptional Catholic, and to do that they have to display a heroic amount of 2 groups of attributes known as the cardinal virtues and the theological virtues. The cardinal virtues are prudence, justice, fortitude, and temperance, and the theological virtues are faith, hope, and charity. This is a stage where the Catholic faithful are encouraged to start praying in the name of the candidate, with things like prayer cards being distributed. Carlo was named venerable in 2018 after the church recognized his virtuous life, and his body was taken to a shrine linked to St. Francis's life. Now step 3 is beatified/blessed. You become beatified by receiving the declaration by the Pope that a dead person is in a state of bliss. To be beatified, the candidates must meet one of 2 criteria. Either they have to be responsible for a miracle, or they have to have been martyred. The Roman Catholic Church teaches that only God performs miracles, but that saints who are believed to be with God in heaven intercede on the behalf of the people who pray to them. Typically, miracles tend to be medically healing of a person. The Pope tends to accept it as such when witnesses verify someone was healed after prayer and the doctors conclude that it had no medical explanation, and the healing was instant and lasting. If verified, the candidate is beatified and becomes blessed. Carlo's first supposed miracle was the healing of a boy called Matthias Viana, who was born in 2009 in Brazil with a serious birth defect that left him unable to keep food in his stomach. As a young boy, he was forced to live on vitamins and protein shakes, but regularly vomited after meals and was unable to put on weight. Matthias, according to his priest, touched one of Carlos's relics in church and said, "Stop vomiting," an act which is said to have cured him. In February 2014, his family ordered further tests and he was found to have been fully cured, the priest said. In 2019, the claimed miracle was acknowledged by the Vatican and confirmed by Pope Francis a few months later, paving the way for Carlo to become beatified in 2020. Step 4 is sainthood. For the Pope to accept someone to be canonized as a saint, it has to be proven that they are responsible for at least 2 miracles. If verified, the candidate can be canonized and made a saint. A formal canonization ceremony at the Vatican follows all of that. Now, the second miracle in Carlo's name was the reported healing of a Costa Rican girl studying in Italy who suffered a major head trauma. Her mother says she prayed at Carlo's tomb after the incident, invoking his spirit and leading her daughter to a full recovery. Pope Francis attributed the second miracle to Carlo after a meeting with the head of the Vatican saint-making department in May 2024. Given the circumstances of Carlo's life and the evidence the church gave, I'm not hesitating to say that I'm actually proud of Carlo. He lived a life dedicated to an idea and was rewarded for that. But it does feel like Carlo is being used to push agendas of other people, the church themselves being one of the few, but still a major benefactor in Carlo becoming a saint. There's been an intentional push to market towards a youth that may be influenced by Carlo's story. Sproul Cummings, author of A Saint of Our Own, How the Quest for a Holy Hero Helped the Catholics Become Americans, said, "Canonization is about marketing. Which stories are going to get told? Who is going to get remembered through this amazingly efficient way of remembering holy people?" So let's look at Carlo's marketing. Using phrases such as first millennial saint when referring to Carlo. They literally dress him in jeans, Nike sneakers, and a sweatshirt, and they go to schools to specifically talk to the children. Sona Harrison, an 8th grader at the St. John Birchman School, said, "When I read his story for the first time, it was just like shocking to me, because from a very early age, he was really drawn to Jesus Christ, and he would go to mass all the time. I feel like he's a lot more relatable, and I definitely feel like I'm closer to God when I read about him." The article with her quote in it said, "During mass the week before the canonization of Carlo, students went into the chapel under a banner of his, carrying things that he might have carried: a soccer ball, a laptop, and a knapsack. 9-year-old David Cameron was quoted calling Acutis a great man, and felt like Carlo playing video games made him somebody he could look up to." Matthew Schmaltz, professor of religious studies at Holy Cross College in Worcester, Massachusetts, said, "He is a new saint of simplicity for the ever-complex digital landscape of contemporary Catholicism." In a world where Catholicism makes up 16% of the world, which is 1.4 billion of the population, the issue isn't numbers. The issue is cultural impact. If you take the inventory of the entertainment that takes priority in our lives, religious content doesn't feel like it makes a mainstream impact. So what does the Catholic Church, whose members ages 50 plus make up 57% of the population, do? Market towards the youth. Use Carlo as a tool to attract a new generation of believers. The church has been quoted saying, "The new saints are an invitation to us all, especially young people, not to squander our lives, but to direct them upwards and make them masterpieces." Clearly, the church has a lot to gain from getting more youth in their thralls, but they aren't the only ones using Carlo's life and death. Some of the pushback to Carlo becoming a saint was the family's influence. Carlo Acutis came from a wealthy family. His father, Andrea, serves as chairman at an Italian insurance company, while his mother, Antonio Salzano, works in her family's publishing business. Antonio claims that Carlo was unaffected by their wealth and even caused her to be hesitant in flaunting it around. But since the death of her son, critics have pointed out that Antonio Salzana has been a tireless promoter of her son's story, using the family resources to publish books, fund a documentary, and establish a foundation. The resources and networks of the Acutis family have been acknowledged as influential in raising the profile of Carlo's case, allowing his story and the attributed miracles to receive extensive attention. Carlo's mother has also been known to carry pieces of what she calls relics with her, strands of her late son's hair that she's handing out to churches. In a 2022 interview, Salzano explained relics are useful because the saints, who have many merits in heaven, can intercede so that the Lord may grant miracles. Now, all of this feels like the actions of a grieving mother who lost her firstborn and is taking advantage of an institution looking for relevancy. People have called the promotion of her son relentless at times, which to me looks like the Acutis family is leveraging the money and influence that Carlo himself supposedly rejected to immortalize their son who died too soon. Listen, I'm not Catholic, and a relatable saint doesn't make me all of a sudden want to become one. So when I look at this under the light, I can't help but notice some things look funny. Did Carlo deserve to become a saint? Is the Catholic Church using Carlo's image to their advantage? Does his mother also have ulterior motives? I don't know. But if Carlo truly earned his sainthood, then congratulations. But if the last two questions get answered how I think they will, then is this the last straw that breaks the Catholic Church's back?
Okay, guys, I'm going to do a tornado siren once again.